welcome to GameRomp Easy Mode, a chill podcast where a husband and wife duo kind of just talk about things, mostly video games.
Video games, yes. Well, I guess sometimes other stuff too, like today. Today's gonna be a kind of something else.
Yeah, like it's video game adjacent.
Yeah, so I have been meaning to rewatch the Super Mario Brothers movie.
From 93.
Yes, because, well, everyone always, shits on it, and...
You also seemed kind of disappointed in the newest, animated one.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I watched the live-action one as a kid.
Yeah, you said you went to the movie theater for that, right?
Yeah, and the new one is obviously much more catered towards kids, whereas the one I watched as a kid was definitely... I mean, it was still it was only rated PG. There was nothing like...
It was the early 90s, so their version of PG is more like at least PG-13 at this point.
Yeah, maybe. I guess the only thing that was really not kid-friendly...
The club scene? Holy shit, those costumes.
Yeah, it's just outfits. But that's that's not the worst thing in the world.
Technically they were covered.
There was no nudity, there was no swearing, there was no gory violence. So, So yeah, sure, some ladies were wearing some weird outfits, but other than that, I think it was okay for I don't know. I guess I come from a different time. I'm used to watching stuff like that as a kid. I watched Total Recall as a kid.
Yeah, the early 90s, and even maybe the late 90s, it depends on who you are. But also starting in the 80s, when did the PG-13 rating come out? That was for Gremlins, right?
Oh, really? I don't know.
I thought it came out because of Gremlins.
That sounds right, but I'm not going to commit to it because I don't know for sure, but...
there was a part in time where it was just PG, and then what comes after PG-13? R. There was no middle ground, so that's probably why they had to create PG-13. So it's back in those days, kids were exposed to things that, people now would be horrified by.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially considering certain climates right now.
I guess it's different nowadays, too, because... Even thinking in video games terms, when I was a kid in middle school and 9th grade or whatever, I would play Resident Evil and GTA 3. It's
yeah, I probably played GTA before I was technically supposed to.
And nowadays, if you think of a mature game, you would think of something like Red Dead Redemption 2, and that obviously would probably not be great for kids to play.
It depends, because what's actually wrong with... I know they have technically the KKK in there, but, the joke is that you can just get rid of them.
Well, that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the general violence and goriness of it.
I guess the goriness, but, it's weird because,
You can be an absolute monster in that game.
You can, but you don't have to be.
True, I guess it's kind of like GTA in that sense. But, you compare that to something like Resident Evil 2, which was a big breakout hit when I was a kid. You would see the commercials and the zombies and, cool graphics, and we're like, whoa, I want to play that. And that was, rated M because you could blow up their heads or whatever. And it's pretty tame nowadays. I mean...
It's weird. We do have the culture here where, kids can be exposed to more violence before it becomes too much to show them than they can be exposed to, human biology.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's kind of good a thing. Because it's you brought up Red Dead Redemption. Yeah, there's violence and shooting and, I get that. But there's not really any boobs or, there's not nudity or anything, is there?
There is nudity, actually, yeah.
Really?
In fact,
I guess there's brothels?
There's a few special events. One of the events you can run into, a random event, is, this nudist dude who likes to go for a swim.
Oh.
And he'll just get out of the water and he'll be doing stretches and stuff, and he's fully nude and fully rendered. And
wow,
Arthur is
I didn't come across that then.
There's a lot of random events, yeah. And I mean, is this appropriate for kids? I guess not, no. But then again,
it depends if the guy's just swimming and okay, I guess the joke is he's doing stretches and male anatomy is always goofy looking. But if you showed a kid that, they're probably not going to get horny. They're going to laugh at it haha, dick joke or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. But either way.
I guess the Mario movie was fine. It was
whatever. Back on topic. The Mario movie did not have anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a classic 90s movie.
It was bonkers.
I would compare it even to the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in tone.
Yeah, that was
Well,
also kind of bonkers. I mean, they didn't have a club scene, did they?
no.
I think. Okay, let me try and
The
remember.
second one did.
I think I remember one of my mom's friends at the time. I think he had one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies, obviously on VHS. I don't remember if it was the first or second one, and I also don't remember if I wasn't allowed to see it or if I did.
Did it
Memories are so jumbled.
did it have the bad guy turtle and fox duo?
I don't
Or was
remember.
it mostly just a gang of kids?
I just remember the funny looking costume things.
Hmm.
Either way, movies back then were just bonkers. Like, okay, slightly still on topic, I guess. When we watched RoboCop,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, that was obviously not made for children, but like,
No.
there's plenty of stories where kids back
Watched
then
that,
had
yeah.
watched it,
I mean
even though they weren't supposed to.
they marketed RoboCop towards kids with like toys
Yeah,
and
that was
video
another thing.
games. Yeah, that is another thing. Come to think of it, because like a lot of those movies would have like video game tie-ins, like Rambo. Rambo had lots of
Or,
games.
like you said, toys.
Yeah, and it's like
Anything and everything sold toys back in the 80s and 90s.
it's pretty funny. And I mean, like I guess most of us came out okay. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if we do
I think maybe
worry too
that's.
much about kids seeing stuff like that, because
Well, I mean, the ones having the kids now that are probably freaking out of it are us millennials that don't allow their kids to, or don't want their kids to see, like, the gratuitous violence and stuff. So maybe it's like they were exposed to that. Maybe it freaked them out and they almost, like, overcorrected.
maybe sometimes I wonder if it's just like people trust the ratings too hard. Like I don't know. You know what? It's tough. We don't have kids, so we don't really have a.
Yeah, this is all hypothetical on our end. Of
I
like,
just
wow, what if we had a kid? Would we let them see this? I don't know.
it is tough though, because like I'm thinking like when I played GTA 3 as a kid, I remember my dad making a comment of like, "Oh, look at these games and how they're made today. It's awful." But like I don't remember playing that and thinking, "Oh, wow, this is cool. I'm going to go do this in real life." It was a big joke sandbox.
Yeah, I mean, same here because I'm pretty sure I was playing, I want to say GTA San Andreas because at one point I was playing and grandma had walked in because I think the TV I would play the PS2 on was actually in her bedroom. So I just like lay down on her bed towards the TV and just be playing games. And she just walk in, and it was probably like one of the many times in San Andreas where they're like saying all the words like I can't even say now,
Hmm.
and like she was like, "Oh my god, what are you playing?" But then she just walk out. Cuz like as a kid, I would play these games, but I wasn't, a quote unquote a bad kid. Like my worst thing was just being addicted to the internet.
Yeah.
But like I wasn't going out, I wasn't doing drugs, I wasn't hanging out with bad people. So like it was like, "Oh my god, you're playing this game and they're saying such horrific things," but then she just walk out and it's not a big deal.
And it's tough too, because like kids at that age, like teenagers and stuff, they want to play the M-rated games and T-rated games. They don't really want to play like Mario. Well, I don't know. When I was a kid, I would also want to play Mario and Pokemon, but I would also want to play, Resident Evil and Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that, or Silent Hill.
Yeah.
So it's like it's tough, because then you have games that are obviously made for adult consumption, but kids still want to play it, and it's like
I mean, yeah, it's just kind of like how child development works. At a certain point, the teenagers, that still counts as childhood development, I guess you could say,
yeah,
are just going to be like, "I'm an adult now. I can play these games. It's
yeah.
not going to affect me." And, sometimes it does. Sometimes, most of the time, it doesn't. But
That's the other thing too. Like even media literacy, or just some people take. You see it even like in TV shows where people would watch like Breaking Bad and be like, "Ooh, I want to be like Walter White. He's the coolest."
yeah, they're
But then
not
like
actually learning the message.
yeah, and then they'll play like games like Red Dead Redemption 2, and like that's a story of Arthur trying to, redeem his awful past. And the people will play it as the most awful version of him and just kill random people, pile up burning bodies, beat up the women's suffrage, stuff
Oh,
like
God,
that.
I remember that,
And
yes.
it's like they aren't playing Arthur's story; they're just living out their murder hobo fantasies. So it's tough. Like
I thought you were actually going to be that, like, they'd play Arthur, and okay, they do these bad things because he's the player character. But I thought you were gonna say like they look up to Dutch and Micah.
no, actually, from what I can tell, like most people hate Micah so much.
Yeah, like so many people were upset that you have to bust him out of there. It's like, can't I just let him
And
rot?
it's like, it's to me, I mean, understandably, he's made to be hated, but he's also a character in a video game, and it's like that's what he was written to be.
Yeah.
So I find him, he is a good and interesting character, and he's also made me laugh a lot. And when I played Red Dead Redemption 2, Micah would make some dumbass comment and make me laugh. And it's like, obviously this guy's awful, and obviously he's made to be hated, yes. But some people, when they like, it's almost personal to them. Here's a really stupid example.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's Reddit, so of course it's gonna be dumb. But like,
Oh,
somebody had posted a thing on Reddit about like, oh, what if you woke up and you were in the camp with Dutch and Mike and Arthur and the others? What would you do? And most comments were like, oh, I'd get out of there, or what am I doing back in the 1800s? But some people were like, oh, first things I'm gonna do is kill Micah. It's just like,
my first thing is this before or after Lenny's mishap? Because I want to save him. That was...
Well, the thing for me is like, okay, see, you're letting your emotional hatred of this one character affect your like intelligence. Because like, if some random ass dude came into camp and tried to kill Micah, the whole camp would be after their ass.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a kind of a dumb example. Just to say that sometimes people, they really either admire certain characters that aren't meant to be admired, or take their hatred for characters that are supposed to be hated to like the extreme. Like there is no stepping back and analyzing your emotions for some people.
Yeah. Actually, okay. One more set aside before maybe we get back to the Mario Brothers. But this reminds me of like when people watch a TV show, like we finished up The Boys, and like the whole point is that we're supposed to hate Homelander. So you either have the extremes of people being like, hey, I thought Homelander was good, and now they're like doing all this shit, and suddenly getting pissed off at the entire show series at season 4 for some reason. Or you get the people that hate Homelander so much, or any other bad character, or character that they deem as bad, and then go after the actor.
Oh, that's stupid.
And I'm like, are people really this fucking stupid?
Yes.
Apparently, yes.
They've been doing that forever. They did that with The Last of Us. Do you remember that?
Do you remember Breaking Bad, the wife?
Yeah.
They fucking hated her, and they sent all that stuff in real life. And I'm like, dude, it's a character. Get over it.
It's there. I think, I don't know. Part of me is like, maybe there should be like some sort of classes in school that help people, like teach them what their emotions are and how to regulate them and how to know what they're feeling, or even just media literacy to be like,
yes,
this is a character.
Mindfulness would be nice.
Yeah. And it's like, this is a character. This is an actor playing the character.
They're not one and the same.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. There's just a lot of wackos out there.
But yes, mindfulness in schools would be really nice to have. Starting from fucking kindergarten.
It's crazy because when I was in school...
But they might blame that on like, oh my god, you're teaching my kid religion or something.
When I was in school, and this was in Florida, which is not a great state now, but like, we would learn stuff like the golden rule, don't treat others the way you want to be treated. And like,
sharing is caring.
And it's like, that's kind of stuff stuck with me. Like, I don't understand how things have gotten so bad. But, I mean, I guess a lot of it has to do with, like,
COVID apparently did not help.
Other kids and other parents. And once there's too many bad kids that, kind of... You know what? This is not a podcast about school and children. Let us go back to talking about very mature things like Super Mario Brothers. Oh boy. So yes, I wanted to see that Mario movie because, as Deanna said, I wasn't a huge fan of the new one. It just wasn't for me because it was obviously for kids.
It was like almost too safe.
That is what I really... This is a thing with Nintendo that you hear a lot, like stories about how Miyamoto or some of them don't want like the characters to be too altered. They have to be... They're very safe. It's been Mickey Mouseified. Mario is such a important brand that he's not allowed to be too crazy. But this movie was so crazy and so interesting and so creative.
The old one.
The old one. That it made it interesting for me. It had a lot of problems, but there was so much in there where like they just thought of this wacky idea. Like, oh, in this world, there is no oil, so all the cars run off of electricity, but they run off of electricity in the way that the bumper cars do at a carnival.
Yeah. Or how, like, electric buses and trucks are starting to be used now.
Well...
Because it was, like, the overhead thing.
Yeah. But those are slightly different. But yes, kind of like that.
My only thing was like, okay, it runs on electricity, which I get, but like, where is that electricity coming from? But I guess that's
Maybe coal? I don't know.
wait, what? Yeah, I guess.
So yeah, the original Mario movie compared to the new one. I think for me that was one of the things about the new one that I didn't like, that it was too safe and too kind of. What was the most creative thing about the new movie in your opinion?
Um, as far as the environment, I mean, it was creative. Okay, I'll say what I thought was creative, which might not even count as creative. One, Toad's voice. I'm just saying that the actor, I forgot, one of the comedian guys, I did not expect him to do such a good Toad voice. Like, that was seemed to me like to be on fucking point. So that was creative to me, I guess. I don't know.
Is that
But
creative or just good mimicking?
I guess, but isn't mimicking creative? Anyways, my other thing was also like where Luigi was being held. As much as it sucked that Luigi wasn't getting any screen time or very little screen time. But for a movie that was made for children mostly and also quote unquote very safe, that little child star talking about what I assume was like, I think it made a like almost a suicide joke. That was surprising. I was not expecting that, but it was fucking hilarious. And maybe that was kind of like a joke that maybe kids wouldn't get, but the adults would. Like, yeah, hey, we're all gonna die, ha ha ha. And it was like just so happy, and then that child voice. So, Jack Black also did a really good performance.
Yeah, I guess.
As far as like the environment or the story, I guess like they made Peach not into the hapless victim as she always is in game. So that was nice.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there isn't too much to complain about in the sense of like it was a fine movie. It just wasn't.
Yeah, it looked really good.
It didn't surprise me. It didn't wow me. It was fine. Whereas the old movie, the old Mario Brothers movie, I know a lot of people don't like that it strayed so far from what Mario is, but it was constantly surprising. Like, look at this weird sci-fi world that Koopa comes from, and like all this weird technology and
Cyberpunk type of stuff.
yeah. I thought that stuff was really cool.
Also, I'm kind of sad that like they were just stuck in one mini city, then apparently the rest of the world was just desert.
Yeah,
Like they could have put more environments in there that still I would assume would fit.
I guess the thing was that they are from, and this is kind of a trope in a lot of stories, where the world they're from is ruined. They're basically clinging on to this one little scrap of land that they can survive off of, and barely surviving, so they're desperate to get out, and that leads to the story of them trying to get out, whether it be in a good or bad way. But
also, they don't explain, and this is obviously too deep for a movie, that apparently whose production was a shit show from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But they don't explain, like, how they get food. Like, the whole world is desert. They have no farms or anything. So, like, what are they eating? It's not the fungus, because apparently the fungus was only, like, after Koopa did his weird devolve on the king. And that's another thing. Like, the king just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He was, like, devolved into mushroom somehow.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know. It's like, I guess they were trying to figure out like the game that Daisy came from, which was a desert kingdom or something. So I don't know. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't.
And then like Bowser had, I don't know if she was the wife or if she was more like an assistant or something, because I think she said that she went up the ranks or something, or that like Koopa needed her by his side or some shit. But
yeah, she was an all new character.
yeah, just made for the movie so that she, spoiler alerts to what, a more than 30-year-old movie. She dies in the end.
Yeah. I mean, they both start kind of in the same way, where the brothers are in Brooklyn.
Also, yeah, that's another thing. They don't seem to be blood brothers.
Yeah, I wasn't.
It's like,
I didn't remember that as a kid, but apparently Luigi was adopted.
it sounds like he was adopted.
Mario?
Because he was, like, so much older. Like, I always thought Luigi is the older brother when I was a kid because he's taller. So, like, that's how it equated in my mind.
But he's not.
No, I know now that he's the younger brother. But there still seems to be, like, a more than 10-year difference between the two. It's more like Luigi is a brother from another mother kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because they're clearly different.
Well, I mean,
A little bit.
the whole them being brothers and their family thing is always kind of it's something that's not ever really super defined in any sense in any of the games.
No.
In some games, it's like, oh, we were brought here by storks. It's like, okay. And like in the new Mario movie, I think they have a dad, right? There was a dad in that movie.
They had a dad. I think they had like a mom and a dad. I think like Jumpman was technically the uncle.
It's been a while since we've seen that one, so I don't remember specifically, but I do like that at least in both of them they start in Brooklyn, which is like something that Nintendo themselves they don't seem to want that to be the case anymore. They don't ever really make allusions to, oh, Mario's not from the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, that's fair. Which is unfortunate because, like, other than Mario and Luigi maybe not being technically blood brothers in this movie, the guy, Bob, I forgot her last name, but
Hodgkins?
something like that. He makes a fucking fantastic Mario. Like,
yeah.
I love how Mario looks in this game. Movie, sorry. And even the Mario Super Show, that Mario was also fine. And yeah, I like
the wrestler dude, yeah.
Yeah, I like that Brooklyn accent.
It's
or
so
New
good
York
for Mario.
accent.
Yeah, it's so good.
I love that accent. So like them coming from there is just perfect.
To me, like that, okay, because when I was a kid, the first, I played the NES games, and like Mario did not have a voice. Then we watched the Super Mario Super Show and this movie. And like in both of those things, they're different actors, but Mario kind of sounds the same, that, New York accent. And to me, that was the sound of Mario's voice for years. This is what Mario sounds like. And then finally, when Mario 64 came out and they got Charles to voice him, I honestly didn't like it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't what Mario sounds like.
I mean, he tried, I think.
No offense to him. He's got his own, style and direction. But, like, as a kid, like, it was a big old 180, and I just didn't like it. And even to this day, I still prefer the older Mario voices versus Martinet's, like, high-pitched Mickey Mouse voice. Again, the Mickey Mouseification of Mario.
Yeah.
I liked
the
gruff
like,
voice of this plumber dude.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, growing up, I guess I had some exposure to, like, the NES or Super NES games for Mario. But my first exposure to his voice, because I never listened to the cartoons or anything, was the N64 Mario voice. So that's the only one I ever knew. But, yeah, I mean, I can definitely see what you're saying. And, yeah, I guess looking back or thinking back, like, if I was back then, maybe I would have just enjoyed his Brooklyn accent or New York accent.
It's interesting for like you'll see sometimes where many characters have a voice actor at some point and then like a new voice actor later on. Like Solid Snake had to have a new voice actor for Metal Gear Solid 5 for some reason. And people didn't really like that. And I thought he was fine. But you do get kind of attached to old voice actors, especially like for games where they talk a lot. At least for Mario games, Mario isn't. I mean, he talks a lot, but not like in a substantial way.
Yeah, he's kind of like Link. He only talks, quote unquote, in the sense of like jumping and sound effects and stuff.
But like, I guess it's not impossible or whatever to realize how some people can get attached to old voices, and it's hard to move on to like, oh, this is what he sounds like now. And like, it's not like I'm, losing sleep over it or anything, but I do still prefer the old version of Mario's voice.
No, that's fair. Because it just seems to fit the idea of like a shorter, compared to Luigi, a shorter, stockier, mustachioed man.
Yeah. They just felt like, working class older dudes, whereas in the games, they just kind of feel like cartoon characters, which, is fine. That's what they want them to be. But when you're a kid, when you were my age, like back in the day, the Super Mario show, this movie, even the storybooks, because I had some storybooks of Mario, it was always like, oh, they're from Brooklyn and they got sucked up into some pipes and ended up over here, and that was like part of the lore, and that just got kind of thrown away, and now he's just like a cartoon character from this other world that has no connection to our world, I guess.
I don't know if it's necessarily connected, but do you think that had anything to do, like, did people really get upset about Mario being like Italian stereotypes with the spaghetti and all that stuff? Did they make the change after that, quote unquote, outrage?
I don't know. I mean, in Mario,
I know that was like a joke.
In Mario 64, even Charles Martinet was making pasta jokes.
Okay, maybe that was after then. I just didn't know if it was like connected in any way.
And I think for the most part, Italian people, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you're more Italian than me, because I'm
Yeah,
not
but the
Italian.
rest of my family, the really Italian part of my family, like Grandpa didn't know anything about games.
I'm just saying, they probably don't care that Mario was talking about pasta or haven't. I mean, the accent was just a New York accent.
That's the thing, though. Also, like when you say New York accent, there's the Italian New York accent. There's also the Jewish accent, New York accent. Like you say that, but it's like, oh, which one are you talking about? Because it's
I don't know.
to me, it feels like there's the two types.
Could they not blend together at some point?
Oh, they probably do.
That's
I'm
now
just
we're getting
saying,
into
like,
linguistics talk here.
yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, if you listen to like Jon Stewart and he makes his like
Yeah.
jokes about that, that's a
Well,
different
you
type
can.
of New York
I think it's safe
accent.
to say you can assume I'm not talking about a Jewish accent. I'm just, yeah,
But then, okay, well, fine, different discussion.
yeah. Anyway, the Mario movie. We're like half an hour into this and we've barely talked about it. I don't know. I guess we talked about it enough. I loved it.
It was fine. It was
It had
different.
issues. I mean, it had many issues and some plot points that are like at the end when the Mushroom King turns back into a human just for like no reason. It's like, okay, sure.
Well, I think it was just, it was almost, you know, that whole trope of like if you, I don't know, kill the main vampire, that the other vampires kind of turn back or something.
But they got de-evolved via technology, not by magic.
I guess. But somehow it's connected that like anyone who is de-evolved by Cooper when he dies just gets turned back somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, but that's like fine. Like in this world, I guess the dinosaurs evolved into humans, whereas in our world, you know, humans kind of came from apes or something. And yeah, they had like this evolution chair where they could make somebody smarter or de-evolve them back into like older versions. Was
And
it
that's
older versions though? Because they like Goombafied the people.
That's the thing. That's another thing that I didn't get because, yeah, they put what was apparently supposed to be Toad. They put him in the chair and de-evolved him. Now, everyone knows that Toad is supposed to be the mushroom.
Yeah.
But instead of turning into, like, the fungus thing like the king, he turns into a Goomba as well. And it doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
At first, I thought maybe there was two class of people living in this world: the reptilian people from the dinosaurs, and then like the toad people from like the mushroom lineage. But only the king turns into mushrooms. And then when Koopa was talking to Daisy, he was like, "Oh, you're from here. You're not one of those ape humans." So is she also a reptile person?
I guess that's supposedly all the humans in that timeline, that dimension, evolved from the dinosaurs.
Maybe he just de-evolved the king so far that like he went back to mushroom after his dinosaur predecessor. I don't know. It's weird.
Maybe, but then like also when Mario and Luigi de-evolve Koopa,
He turns into a dinosaur.
he first turns into a dinosaur and morphs, but then he turns to goo. So like, is that so far back in de-evolution he actually did turn back into the goo, or did
Primordial
he
goo.
actually die?
I don't know.
I guess the idea is that he died.
I really like that scene too because like it kind of played off the Super Mario thing where he had the little clown car or the clown
Yeah.
buggy, except it was like this
Just an
cement
industrial thing.
in the middle of the street. But like here's this like white half circle steel drum thing, and then the dinosaur inside of it, and it's like, oh, that's totally Super Mario World.
Yeah. Also, it makes sense that for all the times this movie apparently got rewritten and changed, and even at the last like literal second it would change. But I guess at one point they wanted it kind of crazy like Ghostbusters, which is I guess why they did the de-evolving guns. So that kind of had the illusion of the Ghostbusters.
I could almost see them being like, we need to make something that we can sell as a toy.
Probably that too.
Yeah. I like the little bomb. That would have been a perfect toy.
Oh, that was cute.
Yeah. And I guess they had like the de-evolution guns and the fireball guns, but
Yeah, that was just weird.
I remember there were actually Super Mario Brother movie toys where you would get like little action figures of them in the classic overalls that they get at the end of the movie. That's another thing too that I like, the outfits. Like there was some drama where like one of the directors or writers or something didn't want the classic overalls, but that just meant you got to see them in cool outfits. Like
Yeah,
for a lot of the movie, they were just wearing these like disco-looking yellow and red suits, which was fun.
yeah, it was funny because on the version of the movie that we managed to find, they had all those like fashion type of illustrations,
Oh yeah,
and they
yeah,
had some crazy ass suits for them.
yeah.
A lot that they didn't use, but
Oh, and yeah, some of the other outfits, like the guards, they would have like jackets that had like spikes on the back, and then their tie, the necktie, would be like a turtle shell, like the bottom of a turtle. So like the front you would see like the shell of a turtle, and in the back you'd see the spikes, and that
yeah,
was a
so
cool
it was
idea.
like it was sneaking in those little
Elements,
details
yeah,
that, only people that I guess really knew the games would probably see.
yeah.
And also, like I said, we talked about this last night, or after we watched the movie, where Koopa's suit from far away just looks like a suit. But in the close ups, you could see that there was like the kind of like snake reptile
Yeah,
like
like
fabric to
scales.
it.
Yeah,
That was nice.
yeah.
I was like, oh, I see that.
I really like the outfits and just the vibe of the world. And
I'm
like,
just sad to hear that the production was just an
yeah,
absolute clusterfuck.
yeah, it's tough. In my opinion, they made something fun and cool, even if it wasn't like the greatest movie ever. But it sucks that it was so hard on everybody and all the drama that went along with it.
Yeah.
Like there was that one scene in the movie where like, okay, so the like I said, the cars, they run off electricity off of like, imagine you're riding bumper cars and the metal just scrapes along the ceiling and draws power that way. That's how the cars just work in that world, and that's so cool and creative. And then at one point, like that one lady like falls onto it and gets electrocuted. But then like apparently one of the staff on in the film was also almost electrocuted
Oh,
by.
God, that poor guy.
It's like they
Oh,
created this
Jesus.
wacky, crazy, dangerous world, and in real life, it was actually kind of dangerous too.
Well, yeah, because it was like the early 90s, so I guess, I don't know, like, it's known that, quote unquote, back in the day, and even earlier, obviously, that the regulations behind movies was absolute trash. And it's kind of surprising that the actors for Mario and Luigi only had alcohol between sets to get through this, because in the early 90s, it probably could have been way worse.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or maybe it was and they just never said it.
Another thing I really liked too was like I know some people don't like the Goombas, but and again they're not really Goombas. They're like these big giant dudes with tiny little heads.
I just want to imagine that their suit is actually mostly empty.
I there's something about the design of them. They kind of remind me of that orange monster from Looney Tunes, the big old bulky dude. You know what I'm talking about?
The fuzzy thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's got kind of that shape except with a tiny little head on top. So it's like this big bulky dude with a tiny little dumb brain and dumb head because they get de-evolved and their brain gets shrunken, and that's how Koopa controls them because they're just dumb.
Although I also like that Toad kept his personality.
Yeah, they gave him his little harmonica.
Well, not only that, giving him his harmonica was nice so that we could, like, kind of keep track of him compared to everyone else. But also he kept some of his niceties because,
Yeah,
like,
he was nice to Daisy.
yeah, he was trying to communicate that. And she did eventually find out, oh, wait, he's actually a good one. So that's
Yeah.
why she tried to save him later. But it was just funny that he kept some of his, I don't know if brain power is the way to put his personality, I guess.
He is the one that looks the most Goomba-ish as far as the shape of his head goes. Because some of the other ones are literally like just little dinosaur heads.
Or, like, snakish also.
Yeah, because they're
I
like
wonder if they were supposed to be, like, technically the other was, like, there's Goombas, but then some are Koopas.
maybe.
I don't know if they were supposed to be differentiated.
It's hard to say. I figured because they're being quote unquote de-evolved,
Yeah.
they're all turning into like these like dinosaur looking
Whatever
things
their
with human
ancestors
bodies.
were.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's just there's something about the design of the big dude with the tiny little monster head that was appealing. And then like I guess because they're kind of like dim-witted that Luigi could trick them into dancing.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that part.
They had said something in one of the scenes about like, oh, even though they're they're dumb and docile, they still enjoy things like music.
Oh, I guess
And
I
that's
missed that
yeah.
part.
And later on, at the end of the movie, they were also just dancing with each other. It's funny. I like that part.
It was wacky, and it's interesting because, like, I don't know if that's gonna. I don't watch movies very often, so I apologize beforehand if this is gonna somehow offend movie people. But the weirdness almost felt Lynchian to me. Because David Lynch is so kind of fucking out there, and this, at least for some things, felt so fucking out there, but like not story wise.
Yeah.
Clearly, David Lynch would not do this kind of story.
No.
But thinking back to like things like Dune, that was just, some of his designs were just absolutely nuts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of what the design wise is kind of what I felt. Gave me those vibes. But again, I don't watch a lot of movies. I don't really know that many directors or their styles.
I guess that's kind of fair. I mean, I wouldn't compare it too much to Lynch's stuff, but
no, just I don't know. The designs are just fucking wacky.
I think people were just a little more crazy and creative back then. I don't know.
I bet you could find that more in indie stuff these days.
Maybe.
It's kind of like, in AAA games, they do more safety stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
But then indies can go just out there and do whatever they want because they don't have to answer to, stocks.
What is like the most recent movie that felt really weird and cool? Because like the only thing I can think of was...
Again, I don't watch a lot of movies, so...
What was that movie with Natalie Portman? I don't remember the name of it. Where she...
Interstellar?
No. They have to like go to this other zone where like the world is kind of... It's colorful and there's weird like monsters in it.
Was that not Interstellar? Or am I thinking of something else?
I don't think that's what it was. Okay, so the Natalie Portman movie was Annihilation. I don't know. I guess you don't remember it too well?
No, I remember where it's like the plants and people frozen in time, and then they go through like this really shiny thing, and it goes to a portal and stuff.
Yeah, that was like one of the last movies I remember thinking like, well, this is really cool and just like different and like creative, especially the ending. But obviously, we're not gonna spoil that movie. I guess another. This isn't recent at all, but it was when we were together. The Mist.
Oh God, that freaking movie.
It's just like the monsters in that were so cool. Especially my favorite thing was that giant monster like that doesn't even like acknowledge the humans, and it's not really a danger, but like they're just driving through the mist and you see their tiny little Jeep or SUV and this humongous like 40-story tall monster just walking in the background, and it's just awe-inspiring. And like,
yeah, I guess if you're going just by monsters' designs, I guess it was okay. That's not the part of the movie I remember most of, but sure.
Anyway, I guess what I'm just saying is like I kind of like movies or stuff like that wows me. And that's why I liked this old version of the Super Mario Brother movie versus the new one, because the new one didn't wow me. It didn't really surprise me. It
just is what it is.
Yeah, it's what I expected it to be. So, I don't know. I like the old movie. It's obviously has its issues, but it was fun. And just the environment, and it was a fun world to visit, I guess I could say. And hey, we didn't pay anything. It's on Internet Archive.
Yeah, so I guess that makes it legal, right?
Yeah.
And there is some really, again, interesting... They got some screenshots of, like, I guess, behind the scenes, but...
Yeah, like Blu-ray DVD extras.
Yeah, but the parts that were more interesting to me were just seeing, like, the fashion drawings.
Yeah.
Which fashion drawings are already out there sometimes. But these were just interesting to see, like, oh, what did they put in the movie versus what they drew, but then, like, maybe not or something. Especially some of the outfits for Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, because some of the outfits for, like, the club girls were just crazy. Like, cool. I don't know if I would say, I guess, kind of hot, but...
They showed a lot of skin, but not, like, anything...
Yeah.
Super bad.
Like, one of them had, like the butt cheeks with, like, spikes on it. Or one had like an alien kind of spine with like an alien tail attached to her suit. Yeah,
that one was really cool. So it's interesting from like a monster type of aesthetic, but also then like sexy aesthetic. I'm gonna be the weirdo and say I like when those two types of things merge, or like horror aesthetic, but also somehow vaguely sexy.
And then you had like, I guess Big Bertha was kind of not super interesting. She was just a big lady in red.
Big Bertha was some of the more, at the very beginning, shocking images that I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if this is necessarily made for kids.
There was that one part where Mario was basically like biting the necklace between her cleavage. There was this one part where Mario was biting the necklace out of her cleavage.
Cleavage.
Why am I struggling with that word?
I don't know. Because I don't have... I don't know.
Anyway, you know what? Whatever. Leave that in there. Fuck it. So yeah, it's wild. You should watch it. Everyone should watch it and remember how cool it was.
Yeah, and when you do watch it, kind of, I don't know if this is going to be offensive, but kind of shut your brain off for it. Don't try to match it to the games that it's coming from. It's not that. Just enjoy it for the dumb fun that it is.
And you know what I like? That's another thing I like about it. I want like a different story with these kind of similar characters. It's kind of some of my favorite stuff in like Zelda as well. Like Zelda nowadays has kind of fallen into a rut where it's a little too safe. I guess Breath of the Wild had a lot of new stuff in it, but it's like always, oh, it's gonna be Link and they're gonna fight Ganon. And it's like,
and they're gonna rescue Zelda.
And it's like, okay. And granted, Koopa is still the bad guy in this movie, but it's so wildly different. Like, imagine if they made a Zelda game that was like a little more sci-fi or cyberpunk or something. It's just
I was thinking,
play with the ideas a bit, maybe.
I was thinking this old movie is almost if you took the Mario universe and mashed it with Cyberpunk 77. Which I guess Cyberpunk 77 is literally just the cyberpunk.
Yeah, you just say cyberpunk.
But I know, but I want to make it so it's like specifically that game and not just that. I don't know.
It is kind of just that aesthetic, like.
I guess.
Especially, I mean, back then they probably did get some inspiration from like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Even like what's that other movie? Total Recall. There's a lot of similarities there too. Like, you've never seen Total Recall, have you?
I'm gonna guess no.
Okay, that's gonna be a movie we need to watch.
Oh boy.
Nothing to do with video games, but yeah, it's like this little cyberpunk city in the middle of a desert. Well, Mars, but it's cool. And I watched that as a kid. I remember I was like 5 or 6. I went to go to my babysitter, and her husband was just watching Total Recall, and I saw that lady with 3 tits, and I was like, oh.
Oh, is this the one with the orange-haired lady?
Did she have orange hair?
No, not the 3 boobs. Just she was all in like white and she had orange hair and it was like a bob cut. Or am I thinking the one with?
No, you're thinking of
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, that's Fifth Element.
Oh, my
Which
bad.
is fine. I remember that one came out much later. Total Recall's with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, gotcha.
And I don't remember who the female lead is. Anyway, video games and movies. And sometimes anime. That's what we talk about. Or life. Maybe we should just accept that anything goes. But no, this was regularly video game related.
As long as we're calm about it.
You know, it's interesting. This makes me think back to like the Street Fighter movie, and not to get too far into it, but the Street Fighter movie was also pretty different from the games. But at some point they're like, you know what? Why don't we make a game based on the movie? So you got Street Fighter the movie, the game. And it's like,
Well,
what if they made Mario the movie the game, like this world and ideas, but in a video game form?
You know, it'd be cool if you could try to do that without getting sued into the ground.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking on the topic of video game movies. I forgot how old I was, maybe 9 or 10, where we tried to go to the movie theater to watch Mortal Kombat, that movie. And I'm going to blame this on my anxiety that we didn't necessarily know or didn't diagnose that I had as a child. I don't think I made it like 15 minutes into that movie before I started busting out crying.
Weird. I wonder why.
And we had to leave.
I don't remember there being anything too shocking. It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
I even remember just being embarrassed at the time, but I couldn't stop crying. It was weird.
That was one of the first movies where they're like, oh, video game movies can be good, I think. But I honestly don't remember too much of it. I was never really huge into Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, because I always saw the games like in the arcade and stuff, so it wasn't like I had never seen violence before or something, but yeah.
Ooh, you know what other video game movie we could talk about one day? The Silent Hill movie.
Oh.
That one's
I remember
a mixed
enjoying
bag.
that. And like, I remember thinking that was a really good video game movie back when it was still like, people were still not sure about it.
Yeah.
And like, I guess maybe even now it can be kind of half and half.
Yeah.
I remember enjoying that a lot. But then they did like a review, I don't know, vaguely in the last couple of months that we saw something about it. And I'm like, wow, I remember enjoying that. But now that I look back and like...
There's some things that were not great, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, they took a lot of liberties with the stories, but I think that's okay. Like, I usually don't want one-to-one recreations. I'm the weird one that liked the Cowboy Bebop reboot on Netflix. I liked the Resident Evil thing, which had nothing to do with the games, and people were like, oh, this isn't like the games, it's stupid. And it's like, I don't want it to be the game. I can play the game.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want to be shocked, and like I want the stories to be different. Ugh, it's sad. It's sad that those two that got canceled.
But then at the same time, we watched The Last of Us, and that was almost a 1-to-1, isn't
yeah,
it?
it was almost a 1-to-1. There was some differences with like.
And you enjoyed that, didn't you?
Yeah, but I think for me, for that one, because The Last of Us was such a good story, I wanted to see how they could bring that exact story into for other people who haven't played the game. So I was very curious to see your reaction to the stories and the beats and the ending. Oh my god, especially the ending. When it just ends with a lie and just bam, it's done and you got to sit and wallow in it like, "Oh my god." Oh, it's so good. So yeah, The Last of Us being remade into something else would be different, but like Resident Evil and Cowboy Bebop. I mean, Cowboy Bebop's story is fine, I guess, but like I wouldn't classify those stories to be equivalent to The Last of Us. So I don't mind when they're remixed and made into something fun and different. Especially Resident Evil, because that story is a joke anyways. But yeah, anyways, maybe we'll talk about more video game movies someday. It's interesting when stories get remixed for different medias.
Yeah, I guess we could start from the beginning with like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones and stuff.
I guess you could say that's video game adjacent.
Well, I mean, there's Teenage Mutant. Which came first, like the movies or the games?
The comic, then the cartoon,
Well, I know those, but
then the games,
then the movies. So it's like, eh.
then the games. I'm pretty sure that's how it turned out. Maybe the games and the movies kind of came out at the same time, but they were like independent of each other. They didn't have anything to do with each other because they were both being based on like the cartoons and comics.
I guess I just want to kind of start with like the older stuff and work our way towards newer and whether ones were they got better with time or worse with time, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I think that's just movies in general too. Like I just have a fondness for those like older 80s and 90s movies. They have like a different energy and feel to them than movies these days do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that to do is with people just are less patient with like slow scenes.
Yeah, apparently a lot of people complain about, like, say, the new Marvel stuff because it's just, it always has to be so action-packed for some reason.
Some of my favorite scenes in movies are when like things do just take their time. Like, remember in Pat Labor 2? You probably don't remember this, but like there's scenes where like one of my favorite things in that movie is just like they're looking
Environmental scenes?
Yeah, it's just like 2 to 5 minutes of just shots of Tokyo in the snow with military like marching in and like, oh, martial law is happening, and this weird music playing and just like this new reality of things, and you just wallow in it for like a few minutes to get that feeling, and I love that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it seems, especially for animated films, it seems really nice to do that because you know those animators are working on those backgrounds.
Yeah.
For who knows how fucking long. For what, a 5-second clip of it? Showing the environment is just giving them more accolades, I guess, for all the work that they've put into those things. So yeah, I do like the slow scenes. I don't mind that.
It's interesting because, like, how do slow scenes work in video games? I guess it'd be like long walking segments.
Yeah, I mean, there's the quote-unquote the low points of video games where things can go slow, and then it hypes up to action scenes. Like, I enjoyed running around in Red Dead Redemption just on my horse and just traveling around. I didn't have to shoot people 24/7.
Yeah, that's honestly the best part of that game, honest. Real with you.
And, like, the hunting and stuff.
And that's the thing, like, something that people were worried about for the new Silent Hill 2 remake. Because one of the first trailers they put out was just like action, 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 shooting, punching, and stuff. I'm like, this is not what Silent Hill 2 was about. Like, some of the most famous parts of Silent Hill 2 were just long walks.
Yeah.
Long walks through this, like, forest or this gigantic, impossible staircase. And, like, that trailer was just not showing that vibe. Luckily, the new trailers and new videos have shown, like, no, that kind of stuff is in the game. So, we'll see.
I mean, they're probably also just trying to appeal to multiple types of crowds.
That's the tricky thing, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, because they need these games that take millions of dollars to make the millions of dollars back and then some. So they have to appeal to as many people as they can.
we should play Silent Hill 2 someday.
Okay.
Is
that the one that we tried before and it goofed up, or was that the first one?
Yeah, the controls were kind of goofed up and we never fixed it and never tried again. Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 1's fine, but Silent Hill 2 is just, I mean, it's the best one. I think most people agree on that. I want to see your reaction to just the story and the ending and the letter, especially. Like, holy cow. Anyway, I thought this was going to be a fast, quick podcast, but we're almost at an hour here, so let's say that this is enough talking about random movies and games for one day.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
So enjoy whatever music we decide to pick for this week.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.